Hey there guys, this is Richard, your host, with another marvelous video. Frank Castle, the Punisher, a character who stood the test of time in the world of comics, defying the odds stacked against many of his ultra-violent, grim and gritty counterparts. Some might be quick to label him as a one-dimensional vigilante, a figure akin to Daredevil or Batman, but with his moral code stripped away, replaced with an affinity for inventive violence. It's a common assumption that a character like this can only provide the occasional one-off story, and that begs the question, what more can be extracted from a persona that seemingly remains static, resistant to growth or change? Well, folks, the answer lies in the art of variation. You see, the beauty of Frank Castle lies not in his evolution, but in the myriad alternate versions of him that have sprung forth, for the sheer thrill of it. Of course, the Punisher, with his penchant for violent justice, becomes a canvas upon which countless intriguing and creative reinterpretations are painted. Let's explore every possible variant of the Punisher. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Cosmic Ghost Rider. In an alternate universe, let me take you on a wild ride through the cosmos, where Frank Castle, the one and only Punisher, isn't your regular vigilante. No, this guy's backstory? It's got more twists and turns than a roller coaster designed by MC Escher. Frank Castle, a war vet with a bone to pick with the bad guys, becomes the Punisher after the mob goes all Sopranos on his family. But wait, it gets even crazier. Fast forward, and he's not just dishing out justice on the streets, he's taking it on the big bad Thanos himself. Now, you might think tangling with a purple-skinned cosmic baddie would be enough for one lifetime, right? Wrong. Frank decided to double down and traded his soul to become the spirit of vengeance. Yep, Ghost Rider style. As if that wasn't enough, he went on to become a Herald of Galactus. Frank's got the power cosmic now, and it's like giving Tony Stark a bottomless credit card at a tech expo. So, here's the lowdown on the spirit of vengeance, Cosmic Ghost Rider Edition. Immortality, hellfire manipulation, meta-possession, pen and stare, and obviously super strength.
The skull, the corny line, well, your name must be Bonehead, right?
Punisher, Spider-Man, the animated series, 1994. Punisher, the guy who takes street justice to a whole new level. So, here's the deal. Meet Frank Castle, your not-so-average Joe. His life takes a seriously dark turn when his family gets caught up in a gang shootout. After that nightmare, Frank basically says, to heck with it, and transforms into the Punisher, the vigilante with a mission to mop up the scum from the streets of the Big Apple. Now, Frank Castle and Microchip, a tech whiz who's like the Punisher's trusty sidekick, team up. It's like Batman and Robin, only if Robin was a genius with gadgets and had a penchant for cracking jokes. But a video game company, totally oblivious to Frank's true identity, decides to cash in on his vigilante antics. They create a game called Assassin. I mean, seriously, talk about missing the mark. Little do they know that the Punisher isn't exactly a fan of the spotlight. The Punisher from the Netflix series. Netflix binge watchers, let's dive into the world of the Punisher series, a wild ride that brings a dose of the Marvel Cinematic Universe to your screen. Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, steps out of the comic book pages and onto your Netflix account. It's like a match made in heaven, or maybe more like a match made in hell. The show kicks off in 2017, giving us a gritty, action-packed look at Frank Castle's quest to clean up the streets and deliver some old-fashioned justice. In Season 1, Frank Castle, an ordinary man turned relentless vigilante, driven by the loss of his family, delving into a conspiracy, all while earning the moniker The Punisher and uncovering a web of corruption that goes beyond personal tragedy. In Round 2 of Punisher's adventures, Frank Castle's peaceful life takes a John Wick-esque turn when he stumbles into a high-octane thriller involving a young girl with coveted information, thrusting him into a deadly game where old and new enemies target him, forcing Frank to decide whether to fully embrace his destiny as the Punisher or seek tranquility in a quiet beach town. Punisher 2099. So, we've got Jake Gallows, a guy who's had the worst day imaginable. His family, murdered in cold blood by the ruthless Cronstone and his gang. Jake himself, well, he got a front row seat to the pain train, ending up seriously injured. After healing up, Jake's got a bone to pick. He's fed up with the justice system's slap on the wrist for Cronstone. So, what's a disgruntled guy to do? He stumbles upon the public eye's secret stash of the original Punisher's War Journal. It's like finding Tony Stark's secret stash of Iron Man suit blueprints in your garage. And here's where things get interesting. The last page of that journal says, "You who find this I charge you to carry on my work. Jake, now fueled by a desire for vengeance and justice, dons the iconic Punisher mantle. He's like the Punisher 2.0, but with a serious score to settle. First, he takes a crack at Cron Stone. He further decides to go all out and team up with his sidekick, Matt Axel. Plus, they build a prison that's probably cozier than your average hotel room, the Punishment Hotel. Oh, and let's not forget the molecular disintegration device, which sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi flick aimed at taking out the most unrepentant criminals. Space Punisher. From the Space Punisher comics of 2012 comes Frank Castle, whose family falls prey to the sinister Six-Fingered Hand, orchestrated by the enigmatic Watchers. This prompts Frank to embark on a relentless mission of vengeance. With Chip by his side, he systematically takes down Hand members, starting with the Brood Queen and extracting intel from Barracuda. A showdown with Sabretooth, Deadpool, and the leader is averted thanks to the unexpected arrival of the Hulk. Extracting information from the leader about the next target, Dr. Octopus, Frank sends him into space before confronting the rest of the Hand members on Skullworld. Frank's pursuit leads him to the coveted Ultimate Nullifier on Avengers Planet, setting off a fierce battle against Jarvis. Outsmarting the AI, Frank strands him in space. The climax unfolds as Frank confronts the Watchers, using a sonic ploy to provoke the Hulk into dealing with them, ultimately leading to a glitchy, uncertain fate for Frank. Dolph Lundgren, The Punisher, 1989. Dolph Lundgren, sporting a jawline that could cut glass, steps into the shoes of Frank Castle. It's like the 80s action movie gods decided to bless us with a superhero. Frank's origin story? Well, his family gets wiped out by organized crime and he's left with a burning desire for some good old-fashioned vigilante justice. Enter the Punisher. Frank's not one to play nice. He goes all in on a one-man crusade against the criminal underworld. His idea of cleaning up the streets? Shooting. And I mean a lot of shooting. But hold on, the fun doesn't stop there. Frank's relentless pursuit of justice starts to make the New York crime families look like the JV squad. And what happens when the big players feel threatened? You guessed it, a good old-fashioned mob war. But the Yakuza decides it's the perfect time to muscle in on the action. So now, Frank's caught right in the crossfire of this epic showdown. What's the solution? Well, Frank's trigger finger gets quite the workout as he takes on hordes of bad guys. It's like a shooting gallery, but instead of stuffed animals, it's filled with mobsters and Yakuza members. In a nutshell, the '89 Punisher film is a blast from the past, with Lundgren's rugged charm and enough bullets to fill a small warehouse. It's a time capsule of 80s action cinema, and if you're into old-school vigilante justice, this one's a must-watch. Ultimate Punisher. In the gritty depths of the NYPD, Frank Castle's journey took a treacherous turn. A noble officer with an unyielding moral compass, he faced a pivotal moment when confronted with the allure of corruption. In a twist, in a courageous act of integrity, Frank exposed his fellow officers for their corrupt deeds. However, the pursuit of righteousness came at a steep price. The crooked cops took a dark turn, culminating in a ruthless assault on his family. Frank emerged as the sole survivor, his life forever scarred by the loss of his loved ones. Yet, from the ashes of that cataclysmic event, a relentless force was born. Fueled by an all-consuming hatred for criminals, Frank embarked on a harrowing journey. He shared his former identity, embracing the mantle of a vigilante unlike any other, the Punisher. In the neon-soaked alleys of his city, the Punisher emerged as a relentless, merciless force. Punisher Max, from The Punisher, 2004. Punisher Max is like a ride through the mind of an aging Frank Castle, the vigilante. Frank's been around the block for quite some time. His family tragedy goes way back to 1976, and let's just say he's racked up quite the body count. Around 2,000 deaths, to be exact. But what sets Punisher Max apart is that it's a superhero-free zone. Yep, you won't find capes, masks, or cosmic powers here. Instead, it's all about realistic characters from Frank's past. We've got Microchip, the tech genius who's like Q from Bond movies, and Nick Fury, the eye-patch-wearing spy extraordinaire. But that's not all. The series introduces us to fresh faces like Jen Cook and Yorkie Mitchell, adding layers to Frank's world. Punisher Max goes global, bringing in intelligence and military operatives from various conflicts. It's like a world tour of mayhem, with pit stops in the Cold War and the Yugoslav wars. Frank Castle's like the James Bond of anti-heroes, minus the tuxedos and fancy gadgets. Now, even though Punisher Max has its own Max imprint, it's not entirely divorced from the mainstream Marvel universe. You can catch glimpses of its connection through references in Civil War files. It's like finding Easter eggs, except in comic book form. Wolverine Punisher. Logan was just an average worker minding his own business in Ontario, Canada, at the dawn of the 20th century. You know, back when fedoras were all the rage and jazz music was the bee's knee. But as fate would have it, Logan found himself at Gerard's bar, the Black Heart. And what's a guy to do at a bar, especially in his 20s? Well, he had a little rendezvous with a lady. Now, this gal had big plans for Logan. She wanted him to become the bartender at the Black Heart and play the role of doting dad to their little one. It's like something out of Prohibition-era romantic drama. But hold on to your suspenders, because here's where things take a dark turn. Scarface, the big-time crime lord with a face that's probably seen better days, decided to crash the party. He not only ruined Logan's day, but his entire life. Scarface had Logan's wife and son taken out, leaving him with a thirst for vengeance. In the blink of an eye, Logan transformed into the Punisher of the 1920s, a one-man wrecking crew ready to take on Scarface and his criminal empire. He teamed up with Matteo da Priglia, and together they became an unstoppable force. Punisher, The Amazing Spider-Man, 1974. Lieutenant Francis Frank Castle, also known as the Punisher. This guy's got a backstory that's as intense as a movie marathon of all the Die-Hard films combined. So, picture this. Frank Castle, an Italian-American and a former Marine with a rap sheet longer than your holiday shopping list. He's been in the trenches, served multiple tours of duty, and even earned himself a Bronze Star, a Silver Star, and not one, not two, but 4 Purple Hearts. But Frank's life takes a nosedive when he finds himself smack in the middle of the Shan Kong War. War is brutal, and Frank's been through the ringer. Then tragedy strikes. It's a scene straight out of a mob movie. Frank's wife, Maria, and their kids, Lisa and Frank Jr., accidentally stumble upon a mafia hit. Let's just say they witnessed something they shouldn't have. And what do the bad guys do? They gun them down in cold blood. Now, with a skull emblem that screams Death's Head adorning his chest, he becomes the Punisher. It's like he's donned the mantle of vengeance itself. He makes it his life's mission to bring down organized crime wherever it rears its ugly head. Imagine a guy with the determination of John Wick, the tactics of Jason Bourne, and the fashion sense of, well, a dude with a giant skull on his chest. That's Frank Castle, the Punisher. Punisher Noir. Meet Frank Castle Jr. from Earth 90214. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. His dad, Frank Castle Sr., was a World War I veteran, which means he probably knew his way around a trench. Young Frank Jr. grew up in the gritty Bronx, a tough place even for the toughest cookies. But life wasn't all sunshines and rainbows. His mom sadly passed away from cancer, which is about as cheerful as a rainy day in Gotham City. Frank Jr. had a stronger moral code than most adults. He also had a Jewish background, which gave him a sense of right and wrong that would make Superman proud. So, what does he do? He ditches his pint-sized criminal pals, leaving them to rob a church of all places. But when Frank Jr. finally makes it back home, he walks into a nightmare. His father, Frank Sr., has been brutally murdered by Dutch Schultz's henchmen. Fast forward to 1935, and Frank's on a one-man crusade against Schultz's organization. It's a gritty noir film, complete with fedoras and Tommy guns. He takes down gang members left and right, and the body count starts piling up. But Frank's not satisfied with just vengeance for his father. He's contemplating taking his pursuit of justice to a whole new level, maybe even hopping on a boat to Germany with the outbreak of World War II. It's like Captain America meets the Punisher in an epic World War II crossover event. The Punisher from Circle of Blood. Back in the thrilling days of 1974, a new force burst onto the Marvel scene, the Punisher. With a skull on his chest and vengeance in his heart, he began his relentless crusade. He even made a memorable appearance in the hallowed Daredevil run crafted by the legendary Frank Miller. But as time flowed, so did the currents of Marvel's editorial decisions. The idea of casting a criminal as a protagonist became a point of discomfort. Slowly but surely, the Punisher receded from the spotlight. However, fate had other plans. In the year of 1986, the stars aligned and the writer's persistence bore fruit. The Punisher burst forth in a blaze of glory with a series that would become legendary, Circle of Blood. This groundbreaking work defied the norms of Marvel's time, carving a unique path with its mature themes and unapologetic storytelling. The Punisher had returned, and he was here to stay, forever etching his name in the annals of comic book history. Franken Castle, the death. Get ready for a showdown that's as intense as a final boss battle in a video game. So, here's the deal. Henry Russo is on the hunt for none other than Frank Castle, our favorite vigilante. It's a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek, but with way more bullets. But Norman Osborn's Hammer forces decide to rain on Frank's parade with a missile strike. They think he's cozy inside his van. But guess what? Frank's not your average guy. He's got stolen PEEM particles, which are superhero shrink-ray tech, and he uses them to make a great escape. Now, Frank's on the run, and he runs smack into Russo. He doesn't mess around. He takes Russo down, and it's not even lunchtime. But Hammer glider troops are hot on Frank's tail. But Frank's not the one to back down, though. He faces off against Darken in the dark and dirty sewers. These two don't hold back. It's a brutal fight with punches, kicks, and everything short of throwing the kitchen sink. Frank manages to injure Darken and even attaches an explosive to him, but Frank pays the price. He's gravely wounded, but it's not over yet. When a swarm of glider troops closes in on Frank, Darken swoops in. But guess what? Darken isn't here to save the day. Nope, he's here to finish the job. In a brutal rooftop showdown, Darken defeats Frank, and I mean really defeats him. He dismembers him, and then, just to make sure the job is done, he decapitates him. The Punisher, aka Akagi, 5 Ronin. An alternate Punisher, the Ronin warrior named Akagi. It's a story of revenge and honor. Our hero, Akagi, returns home from the Korean War, probably with more battle scars than a tank. But when he arrives, something's not right. His house has vanished into thin air. His family, the people he held dear, have been brutally slaughtered by the ruthless daimyo. It's a page torn from a samurai tragedy, complete with betrayal and bloodshed. Now, Akagi's not the type to take this sitting down. He's out for blood. And he's like Liam Neeson in Taken, but with a katana. His housemaid, Namiko, spills the beans. Turns out, Akagi's wife committed seppuku, a form of ritual suicide, because of the death of their son. Akagi is on the hunt for Sato, one of Daimyo's henchmen. And trust me, Akagi isn't taking prisoners. Finally, he confronts Sato in his own house, and it's a showdown that's more intense than a lightsaber duel. Punisher from Marvel Knights, the dynamic duo of Garth Ennis. These guys didn't just rescue the Punisher, they gave him a complete makeover. It all started in the year 2000, a time when flip phones were all the rage in our minds. Ennis and Dillon unleashed their Welcome Back Frank story under the Marvel Knights banner, and it was like a shot of adrenaline straight to the heart of the Punisher. Imagine Frank Castle, the Punisher, back to his roots as a no-holds-barred vigilante, dishing out justice. But Ennis and Dillon sprinkled their trademark black humor all over the story like confetti at a parade. And let's not forget the villains. Oh boy, the villains. Ennis and Dillon went all out, creating characters so over-the-top and grotesque that you think they escaped from a fever dream. We're talking about baddies like the Russian and Marnucci, but the fun didn't stop there. Ennis and Dillon kept the Punisher train rolling with a subsequent 37-issue run, and fans and critics couldn't get enough. It was like binge-watching your favorite TV series, only with more explosions and one-liners. Avenging Angel, The Punisher, Purgatory, 1998. In the years 1997 and 1998, things got downright fascinating for our favorite vigilante. Why? Well, because Christopher Golden and Tom Sniegoski, seasoned comic writers with a knack for horror, teamed up with the legendary horror comic artist Bernie Wrightson. But this wasn't your typical Punisher story. No, this one had a supernatural twist. Picture this. The Punisher confronts an angel, the guardian angel of his own family. This encounter sets the stage for something truly mind-bending. You see, the Punisher isn't just back from the dead. He's got a whole new bag of tricks thanks to this heavenly entity. Meet Gabriel, the angel who resurrected the Punisher and bestowed upon him some shiny new powers. But Golden and Sniegoski throw us a curveball by suggesting that the Punisher's origin story was orchestrated by both heaven and hell. Punisher, Marvel Edge, 1995. Before the Punisher became the avenging angel we know, Marvel cooked up something wild under the Marvel Edge imprint. Frank Castle, the Punisher, is convinced that the legendary Nick Fury and his S.H.I.E.L.D. organization are the ones responsible for the tragic end of his family. In the storyline, Over the Edge, Frank Castle goes on a relentless pursuit of Fury, and trust me, he's not bringing flowers. And Castle actually manages to find Fury and takes him out. Now, you'd think this would be the end of the story, right? Wrong. This tale takes another turn. Castle ends up on death row for offing Fury, and it's a courtroom drama with a Punisher twist. However, the Mafia, who are always up to something, decides to fake Castle's demise. Why? So they can recruit him as their very own mob boss, complete with a slick Italian birth name, Castiglione. It's like The Godfather with a Punisher-sized twist. The series goes on for 18 issues of mobster mayhem and vigilante justice, but it doesn't end there. Castle's journey takes an even weirder turn as he finds himself living in an abandoned Catholic church, and he's got amnesia.
Vengeance. It's punishment.
Punisher 2005 game. Get ready to step into the gritty world of gaming because we're talking about The Punisher. a third-person shooter. Back in 2005, when we were still trying to figure out MySpace, Volition and THQ teamed up to bring us this action-packed thrill ride. It hit the gaming scene like a ton of bricks and was available for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and Microsoft Windows. There was even a mobile phone game in 2004 for those who wanted to take their Punisher on the go. Now, let's talk about our main man, Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, a tough-as-nails anti-hero with a tragic backstory. From that moment on, he dedicated his life to serving up justice like a dish best served cold. It's a revenge-fueled vendetta that would make John Wick proud. And here's where you come in as a player. You get to step into the boots of the Punisher himself. It's like being handed the keys to a vigilante Batmobile, except instead of gadgets, you've got a whole arsenal of weapons at your disposal. Your mission? Track down and eliminate criminals with ruthless efficiency. Cap Punisher. The Punisher War Journal. Now, Frank Castle, the Punisher, has been kicking butt and taking names in the separate Marvel Max universe for the better part of the 2000s. But he's back in the mainstream Marvel universe, and we couldn't have been more thrilled. But it gets even juicier. The first 3 issues of this series take place right in the middle of the chaos that is Civil War. Picture Frank Castle going head-to-head with Iron Man, Captain America, and all the other Marvel heavyweights who were duking it out over superhero registration. And speaking of Captain America, Frank had a deep admiration for good old Steve Rogers. They may have had different approaches to crime fighting, but that didn't stop Frank from respecting Cap like he's the ultimate superhero dad. When Steve Rogers met his untimely demise, Frank decided to honor him in his own unique way. He created a hybrid Punisher Captain America costume, complete with skull insignia, to take down a white supremacist who dared to wear a modified Cap costume. But Frank wasn't done there. Punisher War Journal went on to tie into other major Marvel events like World War Hulk and Secret Invasion. It's like Frank Castle just can't resist getting in on the action when the Marvel Universe is in turmoil. Frank Castle, War Machine, 2017. It all went down in 2017, and in The Punisher number 218, the creative genius of writer Matthew Rosenberg and artist Guy Villanova collided like a superhero showdown. Frank Castle, our favorite one-man army, is approached by none other than Nick Fury Jr. Fury himself needs Frank's help, but it's not your run-of-the-mill job proposal. Fury wants Frank to clean up the colossal mess left behind by some rogue S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. And where is this mess? In the country of Chennai, a place that's knee-deep in bloody political turmoil. It's like sending in Rambo to do some diplomatic house cleaning. Now, to accomplish this top-secret mission, Fury hands Frank the keys to the ultimate weapon, the War Machine armor. It's like strapping a tank to the Punisher. Naturally, with all that firepower at his disposal, Frank goes rogue. He starts doing what he does best, wreaking havoc. Military bases in Chennai blown to smithereens. Wrongly incarcerated prisoners freed. But Frank doesn't stop there. Nope, he takes his War Machine adventures back to the Big Apple. New York City becomes his personal playground, and you can bet the bad guys are shaking in their boots. Punisher from Secret Wars. Marvel decided to go full-on mad scientist and resurrected and mashed together all their different universes. And you know what that means? Right, more Punishers. 3 to be exact. As Earth 616 hurtled toward a brutal and explosive end, our man Frank Castle saw an opportunity. He decided to crash a bar full of supervillains who were just chilling and watching the apocalypse unfold. But Frank's globe-trotting didn't stop there. He made a quick pit stop in Iraq, of all places, and took out an Al-Qaeda leader. Just your average day in the life of the Punisher, right? Now, in one of those brand new timelines, Dr. Strange, who's on his deathbed, decides to do something utterly supernatural. He bonds with Frank Castle to create a whole new kind of sheriff. But over in the Marvel Zombies timeline, yep, you heard that right, Marvel Zombies, a pilgrim version of the Punisher from the year 1692 gets banished to the Dead Zone, and it ends in a showdown between Ultron and a bunch of hungry zombies. Lastly, in the new Civil War timeline, the Punisher is not just any Punisher. He's armor-clad and ready for action. He sides with Captain America, Steve Rogers himself, and becomes the leader of a Special Forces team. Lynn Michaels. Meet Lynn, a tough-as-nails former NYPD cop who had it up to here with all the corruption in the system. She decided to take matters into her own hands and teamed up with the Punisher himself. It's a cop buddy movie, but with more bullets and less banter. Their mission? To bring down a despicable serial rapist who terrorized the city. But as they worked side by side, something unexpected happened. Lynn developed complicated feelings for our skull-wearing vigilante. But Lynn's disillusionment reached a breaking point and she vanished from the Punisher's life like a ninja in the night. Fast forward to the aftermath of the Civil War, and Lynn has a whole new gig. She's gone undercover for S.H.I.E.L.D. and she's deep in the shadows. and she's brainwashed Ian, the auxiliary rookie cop, turning him into an assassin. Under various aliases, Lynn plays the game, all while harboring secrets and a mission of her own. But when push comes to shove, she does the unthinkable. She betrays Jigsaw and the Punisher. And what's her fate after all this chaos? Well, that remains uncertain. Pulverizer. Meet Francis Frank Casket from Earth 9047, a kid who had an unusual childhood hobby, an obsession with weapons. Further, Frank's beloved dog Scruffy got a one-way ticket to Earth's orbit thanks to a gangster named Bulldog. Now, what's a kid to do when his furry best friend is floating among the stars? Transform into the one and only vigilante known as the Pulverizer. Frank was on a mission, and his belief was simple but bold. Eliminate all criminals, and crime would vanish like a magician's rabbit. So, he hit the gym, got in shape, and put together a costume that would make even the Punisher do a double take. But Frank's early attempts at taking on the criminal underworld were like a sitcom in the making. He's stumbling into humorous misadventures left and right, meeting eccentric scientists who are more like mad scientists, and basically having the time of his life. And this vigilante career of his didn't stay confined to just any old universe. No, he launched himself right into the Marvel universe, where things are even more extraordinary. Iron Punisher. Imagine a robot, once just your average sentinel patrolling for mutants, had a fateful encounter with none other than the Avengers Unity division. And let's just say it didn't come out of that encounter the same way it went in. Somewhere along the way, this metal behemoth gained emotions. Now it's not just a robot on a mission, it's a vengeful force with a grudge against superhumans. It's like RoboCop meets the Terminator, with a dash of Tony Stark's attitude. The Iron Punisher decides to crash Howard the Duck and Beverly Switzler's reunion. But of course, every villain has their kryptonite. In this case, it's someone called Scout who seemingly manages to shut down the Iron Punisher. But Sparky Tech Chip enters the scene and does some techno-wizardry to revive our metal friend. And you can bet chaos ensues. The Iron Punisher takes on none other than Spider-Man, and it's a battle that shakes the city. But amidst all the chaos, the Iron Punisher gets distracted by a cyborg cat named Biggs. Yes, a cyborg cat. And what's the result of this feline distraction? Well, the Iron Punisher ends up receiving Biggs Prime, the cat, as a gift to, you guessed it, he's it. Thanos Punisher. This is Earth 18138, and in this topsy-turvy world, where the rider, none other than Frank Castle himself, takes on the role of a cosmic babysitter. He's in charge of raising Thanos, the big bad titan, from the time he's just a baby. And what's the goal? To turn Thanos into a force for good, of all things. Together they embark on a mission to bring peace to the universe. But as the story unfolds, the peace-loving babysitter and the authoritarian baby clash over their differing visions for the future, and it leads to the rider's demise. Now, here comes Cable, the time-traveling assassin with a plan. He decides to take matters into his own hands and attempts to do the unthinkable, snuff out baby Thanos before he can become a cosmic menace. But the Rider, in an unexpected turn of events, becomes the Protector. Fast forward to a grown-up Thanos who's seen and done it all, including taking down Cable. He decides to give the Rider a glimpse of the dark future he's created. Our disheartened Rider, now armed with the grim knowledge of what's to come, decides it's showdown time. He faces off against Thanos in an epic battle to end all battles. And he emerges victorious, defeating the cosmic tyrant and saving the day. But the story doesn't end there. The Rider, with baby Thanos in tow, decides to pull off the ultimate time-traveling feat. He sends the baby Titan back to the past, all in a bid to prevent that bleak future from ever happening. Punisher from Avengers Confidential 2014 and Iron Man Rise of Technovore 2013. This is a tale from Earth 101001. Meet Frank Castle, and as you know it, he goes by the name Punisher. He's the Dark Knight of vigilantes, on a mission to bring justice to those who mess with innocent lives. Our story kicks off with a showdown. Frank decides to crash a little meeting between AIM, that's Advanced Idea Mechanics for you non-comic folks, and an armed militant group. It's a not-so-friendly neighborhood get-together, with Frank as the party crasher. But just when Frank's about to deliver his signature brand of justice to the last baddie standing, guess who swoops in? Iron Man himself. Tony Stark steps in and manages to convince Frank to put his killing spree on hold. And of course, you can't have a Marvel story without some S.H.I.E.L.D. agents in the mix. Black Widow and Hawkeye decide to join the party. But Frank's no pushover. He pulls off some slick moves to distract the two agents, giving Iron Man the chance to escape and confront Zeke Stane, who's probably up to no good. But sometime later, he finds himself in S.H.I.E.L.D. custody after messing with one of their secret missions. But to earn his ticket out of jail, he has to team up with Widow in taking down Leviathan, a nasty terrorist organization. Punisher Max 2, 2010. We're diving headfirst into the second coming of Punisher Max. It's January 2010 and Punisher Max bursts onto the scene. This bad boy ran for a total of 22 issues, and it's a ride of gritty storytelling. Jason Aaron, the genius behind Scalped, takes the writing helm, while the legendary Punisher artist Steve Dillon brings the visuals to life. Now, Punisher Max doesn't play nice with the regular Marvel universe. It's in a universe of its own. A Max universe where the gloves come off and the action gets as brutal. But what's a Punisher story without some iconic baddies? Right. Aaron serves up Max versions of supervillain heavyweights like Kingpin and Bullseye. Aaron wraps up his story in a way that's as final as Tony Stark's last Iron Man suit. Frank Castle, our beloved Punisher, falls in a no-holds-barred battle with the notorious Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin. And Frank doesn't just go down in flames. He becomes a martyr, a symbol of justice in a city plagued by crime. And what happens next? The citizens of New York City decide they've had enough, and they rise up like a legion, taking matters into their own hands. Ray Stevenson, Punisher Warzone, 2008. Let's ride back to 2008 with Punisher Warzone. Now, let me be straight with you. This flick had its fair share of flaws, but it also had a shining knight in the form of Ray Stevenson. Known for his stint in Rome, Stevenson steps into the Punisher's shoes. Right off the bat, he looks like he walked straight out of a comic book panel. The guy had the grit, the menace, and the physicality that screams Punisher. Punisher Warzone cranks up the violence to 11. I'm talking about comic book violence that's so over the top it's almost like a parody. But here's the silver lining. In the midst of all this chaos and questionable acting, Ray Stevenson emerges as the Punisher we deserve. He's the beacon of hope in this cinematic storm. Stevenson not only looks the part, but brings the necessary gravitas to the role. And when it comes to injecting some heart and soul into the character, he nails it. You'll find yourself rooting for him, even when the world around him feels like it's gone completely bonkers. And get this, Stevenson didn't just stop at the big screen. He later lent his voice to the Punisher in an episode of The Superhero Squad Show. Now, that's commitment to the character, folks. Thomas Jane, The Punisher 2004. Thomas Jane's Frank Castle in the 2004 film The Punisher. Now, some might say this is the crown jewel of Punisher portrayals on the big screen, and they might just be onto something. I must say, Thomas Jane absolutely nails it as Frank Castle. Sure, the film itself might not have won any Oscars, but Jane's performance is a feast to watch. Now, let's talk about John Travolta as the film's baddie, Howard Saint. He's not exactly winning any awards for this one. In fact, he's teetering on the edge of so bad it's almost good territory. But Thomas Jane steps into Castle's shoes and delivers a performance that's nothing short of fantastic. He's got the stuff of Punisher legend. And the cherry on top, Jane's impeccable timing in delivering the film's moments of black humor. He knows how to balance that dark, brooding side of Castle with a dash of wit. But Jane wasn't done with Frank Castle after the official film. Nope, he came back in 2012 for an unsanctioned fan film called Dirty Laundry. It's the Punisher we all deserved, and it left fans with a collective sigh of, why didn't we get more of this? Punisher from Marvel Universe versus the Punisher. In a twisted alternate reality, our main man Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, finds himself in one heck of a predicament. It all started when he decided to crash a little get-together thrown by the Red Mafia, who were up to some shady business involving weapons. They were dealing with some top-secret pathogen stuff. Now, Frank, being Frank, didn't waste any time. He stormed in, guns blazing, determined to put a stop to their dangerous dealings. But that pathogen he stumbled upon, it turned out to be more than he bargained for, something that would change the world as he knew it. You see, this pathogen made him immune, and it spread like wildfire, infecting folks left and right. And guess what? It turned them into savage, bloodthirsty creatures. The world went from bad to worse really quickly. Our boy Frank, though, didn't give up. Alongside other heroes, he fought tooth and nail against these infected nightmares. Fast forward a few years, and Frank finds himself as the last man standing and on a mission to hunt down every last infected soul in NYC. Later, he crosses paths with Deadpool. These two anti-heroes team up, and trust me, it's a match made in chaos. Punisher Exosuit. Now, this is some high-tech, supercharged action. Microchip, the tech genius of the Punisher's crew, decides to do a little digital heist. He hacks into the Reaver's computer system. You know, those tough-as-nails mercenaries hanging out down under in Australia. He's got his eyes on some top-secret blueprints for a combat robot they've dubbed the Dalek. But, as luck would have it, the Reavers catch wind of the hack. They're not the forgiving type, these guys. Oh no, they decide to take revenge. First, they pay a not-so-friendly visit to the Punisher's safe house. You can imagine the mess they left behind. Then they set their sights on Microchip and Castle themselves. Now, Microchip is not about to let the Reavers roll over him and Castle without a fight. No, he gets to work, putting his tech skills to the test. What's the result? The Punisher's very own exo armor, a mechanical powerhouse that's ready to level the playing field. With that armor strapped on, Castle's got the edge he needs to take on the Reavers and their high-tech gadgets. But soon, Castle goes rogue from the Thunderbolts, and he's not about to let that shiny new exo armor collect dust. Outlaw British Punisher. We've got a new vigilante in town, and he's serving up justice with a side of British charm. Meet Nigel Higgins, England's very own take on the Punisher. Nigel wasn't always in the crime-fighting business, though. He found his calling after getting a hefty dose of inspiration from none other than Frank Castle himself. You see, Nigel decided to follow in the Punisher's footsteps, and boy, did he take that commitment seriously. Over in London, Nigel served as the go-between for Castle and Microchip when they had their sights set on the Kingpin's grand plan. The Kingpin had some sneaky scheme involving the English Channel and uniting European crime syndicates. But Nigel wasn't about to let that happen on his watch. Now, here's where things get interesting. News travels fast in the vigilante world, and when Nigel heard whispers of the Punisher meeting his apparent demise in the Big Apple, he decided to cross the pond and see what the fuss was all about. Once he arrived in the good old US of A, Nigel found himself tangled up with a whole bunch of Punisher allies, wannabes, and of course the usual batch of bad guys. They all seemed to have their sights set on a sleepy little town called Last Kiss, where rumors had it that Castle might still be alive and kicking. The Punisher, MC-A1. This is the wild world of Macrocosm Alpha 1, where the one and only Punisher resides within Earth Zone. But this ain't your typical Frank Castle. This is a whole new breed of vigilante, and his story unfolds in the epic tale known as The Punisher Slaughterscape. Our hero here is a bit of an experiment, to say the least. Created by the agency, he's not your average soldier. No sir. This guy is what you might call an ultra soldier, and he's packing some seriously unique qualities. He's a hybrid of undead and human, a true one-of-a-kind, and he's not exactly working for the Boy Scouts. No, he's been enlisted by the shadowy organization known as Black Watch, and they've got a particular set of skills they want him to put to use. So, what's he up to? Well, let's just say he's become a globe-trotting, justice-dispensing machine. But it's not your standard law and order he's serving up. It's more like illegal mercenary justice. He's like a one-man army taking on the bad guys, and governments around the world aren't quite sure what to make of him. Franklin Castle Jr., Earth 5039. Earth 5039, the world of an alternate Frank Castle Jr. Now, not much is known about this version, but fear not, because even with limited info, we can still peel back the layers of this mysterious Punisher. Frank Castle Jr., like his Earth 616 counterpart, has quite the resume. He started as a soldier, serving his country with valor and honor. But then life took a different turn, and he transitioned into the world of law enforcement, becoming a dedicated cop. Frank Castle Jr. didn't stop at just fighting crime within the confines of the law. Oh no, that would be too easy. He took on a whole new mantle, the vigilante known as the Punisher. A one-man army, a relentless force against the criminal underworld, dispensing justice with a skull on his chest and a whole lot of firepower. Francis Castle, Earth 2149. A tale from Earth 2149 where zombies roam and heroes fight for survival. In this undead-infested nightmare, the Punisher, much like his Earth 616 counterpart, found himself in a world overrun by the Walking Dead. But the Punisher teams up with Ash Williams, the chainsaw-wielding, one-liner spouting hero from the Evil Dead franchise. Together, they embarked on a mission to put an end to the zombie plague that threatened to turn the entire world into a buffet for the undead. Things took a turn for the worse when Punisher found himself outnumbered and overwhelmed by the relentless zombie horde. But the story took another twist when Punisher and the zombie horde launched an assault on Castle Doomstadt, where they encountered Scarlet Witch. Tragically, she fell victim to a zombified Punisher, leaving us with a chilling cliffhanger. As for Punisher's fate, well, it remains shrouded in uncertainty. But considering the cosmic-powered zombies running amok in this nightmarish realm, the odds weren't exactly in his favor. Old Man Punisher. The Battle of New York is in full swing, and our anti-hero decides to jump into the fray alongside the other heroes. With gritty determination, he takes on the electrically charged villain Electro, showing that even in the midst of chaos, the Punisher means business. But Punisher gets a taste when he's stabbed by the infamous Kraven the Hunter. Ouch. Now, despite that close encounter with death, Punisher, true to his nature, doesn't throw in the towel. He survives that nasty encounter and keeps on trucking, continuing his relentless mission to clean up the streets. Fast forward a few years, and we find an older and wiser Frank Castle teaming up with Logan, the Wolverine himself. Together, they set out to put an end to the Punishers, a gang that's been causing all sorts of mayhem and chaos. In the heat of battle, Frank takes some serious wounds, and it looks like the end might be near. but in a moment of peace, he manages to recover his war journal, a symbol of his unwavering dedication, and gazes upon a cherished picture of his family. It's a bittersweet farewell as Frank Castle, the Punisher, passes away peacefully, knowing that his mission was never in vain. Punisher from Punisher, a man named Frank. In the heart of the Old West, a man named Frank had returned from the horrors of war, seeking nothing more than the quiet life of a farmer alongside his beloved wife and children. He yearned to nurture the land and raised his kids in the serenity he'd fought so valiantly to protect. But fate, as it so often does, had a cruel twist in store. A gang of ruthless desperados descended upon his peaceful homestead, reducing it to ashes and committing unspeakable horrors that took the lives of his wife and children. To add to his suffering, they callously abandoned him in the unforgiving desert, left to wither away under the scorching sun. However, this man was made of steel. Summoning every ounce of his willpower, he dragged his battered body back to the now silent ruins of his home. There, beneath the unforgiving soil, he laid his cherished family to rest. But Frank's story was far from over. He unearthed a hidden war chest, a reflection of his past life and skills. Fueled by grief, rage, and an unquenchable thirst for justice, he embarked on an unrelenting quest across the untamed landscapes of America. This manhunt would span years, and he would emerge as a relentless vigilante, a force to be reckoned with. Punisher from Punisher, Dirty Laundry. Fan films like The Punisher Dirty Laundry, directed by Phil Joannou and starring Thomas Jane, are perfect examples of how passionate fans can successfully adapt beloved game franchises and comic book characters to the screen. Here's how it goes. In a dark and brutal tale, Frank Castle, the Punisher, becomes a silent witness to a horrific assault on a prostitute by a ruthless gang led by Goldtooth. Despite his seething rage, Frank chooses to remain in the shadows. The gang's brutality extends to a young boy named Deshaun, triggering Frank's transformation. Seeking refuge in a liquor store, he crosses paths with Big Mike, a paralyzed clerk marked by a past confrontation. Frank purchases seemingly ordinary items, masking his true intent. Returning to the chaos, he unleashes a storm of violence, dismantling the gang. Goldtooth faces relentless punishment, maimed and set ablaze. Justice takes an unexpected turn as the prostitute returns for vengeance, while Deshaun discovers the enigmatic Punisher symbol, marking Frank Castle's dark pursuit of justice in their neighborhood. Punisher from the Superhero Squad show. In the quirky realm of Earth 9119, Frank Castle's early history remains shrouded in mystery. Given the child-centric nature of the Superhero Squad, the specifics of his past, including whether he suffered the loss of his wife or other loved ones, remains undisclosed. The fateful encounter between the Punisher and the Superhero Squad occurred when our unlikely heroes were unceremoniously evicted from the helicarrier. Desperate for a new place to call home, they stumbled upon Punisher's battle van. However, their housing arrangement didn't exactly go as planned. Punisher, known for his imposing demeanor, delivered a spine-tingling speech, and to make matters more chaotic, the van's arsenal of weaponry accidentally discharged in a comical mishap. As of now, the Punisher finds himself as a somewhat dubious addition to the Superhero Squad's roster. Trust isn't readily extended his way, characters like Iron Man harboring suspicions about his true intentions. In this offbeat world, alliances are formed with a dash of skepticism, and the line between good and bad is delightfully blurred. The Punisher in arcade game. In the annals of gaming history, there's a gem from 1993 that emerged from the creative minds at Capcom, The Punisher, a gripping beat-em-up arcade game. Here, we delve into the action-packed narrative that unfolds as players step into the shoes of Marine Captain Frank Castle. Our story takes off as tragedy befalls Frank's family, transforming Frank into the relentless vigilante, the Punisher. The game's pulse-pounding journey kicks off as Frank's quest for retribution begins with a ruthless mafia enforcer named Bruno Costa. With Scully as his captive, Frank extracts vital information before ruthlessly eliminating him from the equation. The trail of justice leads him to the notorious Kingpin himself. To protect his empire, the Kingpin deploys Guardroid, a robot tasked with erasing Frank from existence. As the Punisher, players navigate a treacherous path, confronting drug smugglers, clashing with the menacing Bone Breaker, and decimating an illicit poppy field. The Kingpin, feeling the threat escalate, places a hefty contract on Frank's head, summoning a cadre of deadly assassins to get the job done. Marvel Mangaverse. Punisher. In the realm of the Marvel Mangaverse, a captivating saga unfolded from 2000 to 2002 and later continued with the sequel, New Mangaverse, in 2006. Amidst the vibrant streets of Tokyo, a captivating figure emerged. Meet Sasumi Brown, a woman of duality. By day, she dons the mantle of a school principal, but when the sun sets, a remarkable transformation occurs. Under the shroud of night, she becomes the vigilante known far and wide as the Punisher, a moniker that, in the unique air of Tokyo, has earned her the playful nickname Japan's kinkiest superhero. Her crusade against the forces of darkness takes an unconventional twist when she apprehends a notorious underchief from a crime family. In an unexpected turn, her chosen method of extracting information involves a rather unconventional approach: tickling, an artful form of torture that leaves her captive unraveling. In the midst of her relentless quest, a familial connection comes to light. She encounters her own sister, Hashi, who, in a twist, finds herself on the wrong side of the law. As destiny would have it, a climactic confrontation looms on the horizon. The enigmatic leader of the crime family, Scan Ki-ho, stands as the ultimate adversary. However, salvation emerges from an unexpected source. Hashi, now wielding a cursed sword, steps into the fray, forever altering the course of their intertwined destinies. Marvelous verdict. In the vast multiverse of comics, one character stands as a reflection of the enduring appeal of justice and vengeance. The Punisher, a vigilante born from the crucible of tragedy, has taken on countless forms and traversed a multitude of universes. From the gritty streets of New York City to far-flung realms of alternate realities, the Punisher's indomitable spirit remains constant. These diverse incarnations of the Punisher showcase the character's adaptability and timeless resonance. Whether he's a soldier, a cop, or an otherworldly force, the Punisher's commitment to eradicating evil serves as a universal symbol of justice. In the world of comic book lore, the Punisher's presence is an enduring reminder that, no matter the iteration, justice will always find a way, even in the darkest corners of the multiverse. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, and be safe. Thanks, everyone.